We're very fortunate with us to have Sandy Grimes this afternoon. She has quite a remarkable story to tell, a story from inside the CIA where she worked for years. Hired by the CIA right out of college in 1967, Sandy spent 2.5 decades rising through the agency's ranks and assignments, working against the Soviet Union and Eastern European countries. She was about to resign in 1991 when she was asked to stay for one more assignment. That assignment involved joining a 5-person team charged with figuring out why so many of the CIA's most valued Soviet assets had been executed or imprisoned several years earlier. The investigation ended up exposing one of the most destructive traitors in U.S. history, Rick Ames, a CIA counterintelligence officer. Since his conviction in 1994, Ames has been serving a life sentence. A Circle of Treason, Sandy's book, is the first account from inside the CIA, not only of how Ames was caught, but of the men he betrayed. Sandy wrote it with Jean Vertefeuille, another longtime agency member who participated in the investigation. Their book was first published a little over a year ago in 2012, and Jean passed away at the end of 2012. But their story has gained fresh attention as a result of the 8-part ABC miniseries, The Assets, which started airing last month. There's been a lot of focus lately on women at the CIA. The movie Zero Dark 30 played up the role of a female undercover officer in tracking down Osama bin Laden, and the popular Showtime series Homeland revolves around a female analyst. Now, Sandy's real-life experience lacked some of the hyped drama of these fictionalized characters, and she told me also that one of her conditions when they were putting together the assets was that her character have no affairs. So she put her foot down there. Old school, she says. But Sandy was definitely and remains a very bright and determined intelligence professional who did our country a very great service. A review of her book in the Washington Times calls Circle of Treason, quote, the most gripping insider account of a counterintelligence operation that you are ever apt to read. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Sandy Grimes.
Thank you very much. Can everybody hear me? All right. I'm going to have to take my glasses off so I can see my notes. All right. I'm delighted to be here to talk about our book, Circle of Treason. Now, before I get started, though, my remarks are going to be fairly brief because I want to leave a lot of time for your questions, and I'll be glad to answer, I assume, most of them. I'll be able to. I also want to say I'm here to represent my good friend and co-author, Jean Vertefeuille, as I tell you about our journey to determine who or what caused the wholesale loss of our Soviet assets in 1985 and in 1986. In 1991, that led us to search for a traitor in CIA. To make matters worse, we knew he wouldn't be a stranger. He'd be a co-worker, a colleague, someone we had known for a very long time, and someone we probably saw every day in the hallways of our headquarters building. But Circle of Treason is not just a story about how we identified a spy. It's much more than that. For the first time, Jean and I are able to tell the history of CIA's contacts with his victims. Many are their stories or ours as well. We participated in the handling of a number of these cases, and we watched as those we knew were arrested and executed. Always concerned that we might have made a mistake, which led to their deaths, is a burden no one wants to carry. But I have to be completely honest. That's what a number of us in CIA had to do for the next 8 years until our mole was identified. You may have noticed I had yet to mention his name. We all know it's Aldrich Ames, or Rick as he is known to us. And yes, he was a colleague. And for me personally, he and I were carpool partners in the mid-1970s. And on April 16th, 1985, Rick Ames decided to walk through the front door of the Soviet Embassy, downtown Washington, D.C., 16th Street, and volunteer his services to the Soviet Union. 2 months later, he also decided to provide his KGB handlers with the names of or identifying information on every single one of our human sources reporting on the Soviet Union. Those who were currently reporting, those who were long retired, or those who were dormant. And in doing so, he knew full well what fate awaited them. They would be arrested, they'd be interrogated, they'd face a trial, they'd be convicted, and they'd be executed. A bullet to the back of the head. Now, it's 1985, and our nightmare begins. Late May, GRU asset Bokan, whom we're handling in Athens, Greece, receives a cable from his headquarters saying, "You're to return to Moscow." He decides to defect, and we bring him safely to the U.S. Early August, our KGB asset, Polishchuk, in Lagos, Nigeria, is arrested in Moscow during a home leave. Sometime between late August and early October, our GRU asset in Lisbon, Portugal, Smetanin, is also arrested in Moscow, also during a home leave. November 6th, our KGB asset here in Washington, D.C., boards an Aeroflot flight at Dulles, bound for Moscow. Over and back, short trip. We never see him again. Again, early November, our KGB asset, Varenik, in Bonn, West Germany, travels to East Berlin for a 3-day conference. He disappears. And into 1986, February, our KGB asset, Vorontsov in Moscow, is arrested. June or July, as best as we can tell, our GRU asset, Vasilyev, in Moscow, is arrested. July 7th, 1986, our long-retired GRU asset, General Dmitry Polyakov, is arrested in Moscow 1 day after his 65th birthday. He's the highest-ranking Soviet intelligence officer this government has ever run. And, unfortunately, into 1987, our KGB asset, Peguzov, also in Moscow, also long retired, is arrested. So here we are. It's the end of 1985, and obviously something is seriously wrong. Two possible explanations. We either have a human penetration of CIA, or our communications have been compromised. In other words, they're reading our traffic. What do we do? Our first action was taken in response to a new volunteer. In January 1986, a Soviet intelligence officer volunteered to CIA. Now, our goal was simple. We got to try to keep this one alive. We have no idea whether it's a traitor or a technical penetration, so we have to guard against each possibility. With respect to